Welcome back to House Rich, the first time homebuyer show where we help millennials figure out where do I get started in real estate and how to build generational wealth. Today's topic is 8 red flags you may see when shopping for a home. So, an experienced realtor may know a lot of these, they should, but it's always important to do your due diligence as well because, hey, even the best realtor, they may be busy or they may miss something here and there. So, I'm going to tell you 8 things you need to look out for when you're out there looking at homes. Let's get into it. All right, so this is from one of the first homes I ever looked at during like my home ownership journey. And I remember going into this house and I was like, man, they had just cleaned it. They had like the orange cleanest smell. I know y'all probably smell the lemon. The orange cleanest smell is the best cleanest smell out there. And so I remember going to the house. They also had like some incense or something going as well. I think it was like orangey as well or tropic or something like that. And I was like, man, they just cleaned the place. It's a good smelling home. Okay. And my realtor was like, nah, bucko, this is a red flag right here. And so he was like, the reason sometimes folks do this is to mask other smells that will be there once the cleaning smell and the incense is gone. And so it could be like mold from like a moldy smell or dampness type smell, or most likely, or number one with a bullet, it's usually to mask either like smoking or like pet smells. And so, like pet urine and stuff like that. And think about it. They're trying to mask the smell for 2 reasons. One is either super expensive to actually like get the smoke smell out the walls and clean that, and same thing with the urine, or they just can't get it out. So either way, you're down bad if you're purchasing a property and you don't realize the actual smells associated with the house. So always beware of like smells just for the sake of smells when you're searching for a property. Oh yeah, and by the way, it was cat urine in that situation. So red flag number 2 is like DIY tiling. So there's nothing wrong with doing stuff yourself. You're on YouTube learning how to do stuff. Folks go on YouTube all the time to learn how to do stuff. The bad thing is when folks can tell that you did it from watching a YouTube video. And so, the aesthetics is one thing, but you got to think like, if someone is like DIY tiling and stuff like that and, doesn't want to pay for an actual, professional person to do it to make it look good, like what other stuff have they done themselves that may not be such an eyesore that you don't notice it, right? So you want to make sure that if someone's like DIY tiling, like in the kitchen or something like that, they probably DIY'd some other stuff as well. And it's very important for stuff like bathrooms or places that like water can get behind, because it could be like maybe they did try to hire a professional and they were like, nah, we got to pull out, all of this tile and get back behind the shower and stuff like that to get out this mold. And they're just like, nah, I don't want to pay you a couple $500 or whatever $100 it's going to cost to do that. I'm just going to Home Depot. I'm going to get some caulk. I'm going to get some tile, and I'm just going to fix it myself. So once again, that's something that honestly might not necessarily come up during the inspection because your inspector is not going to get behind the tile, but that's something that may come up down the line, like when mold starts to form. Once again, they could be all sorts of other DIY projects with cabinets or shelving and stuff like that once again may not be obvious to the naked eye, but may start falling in the years to come. So if you see that DIY tiling, just reiterate to the seller, hey, have you done any other home improvement projects in the house so you can keep an eye on it? Because the seller has to disclose certain stuff when it comes to the home, but they don't necessarily have to disclose everything unless you ask. All right, so foundation issues. So when you're walking around the house, you want to look at the foundation to see if there are any cracks or cracks in the building or outside the home. And also you want to look in like the corners of the rooms to identify foundation issues. And sometimes it's not super obvious, but things like door sticking and like uneven floors, that's an indication of foundation issues. Now sometimes if they're super old houses, that's just how houses settle like that. But you want to make sure that you're aware of that. If it's a new house and like doors are sticky and all that, be aware that they may be foundation issues. So you want to ask the seller like, hey, have you got a structural engineer to look at the property? Or you can do stuff like you can take like a marble and like put it on a counter or the floor and see if it rolls one way or the other. You can take like a level to see if the home is actually level. And so the visual stuff is something that will be caught during like an appraisal most likely. But here's the thing with an appraisal. one, at that point you have your earnest money down, and two, you've paid for the appraisal with the lender. Like, you can't get your money back for an appraisal. And so when the appraiser notices it, what they're going to say is, hey, you need to pay for a structural engineer in order for me to give a thumbs up or thumbs down to as if there is actual structural damage on this property. And then you get into a dispute on who's going to pay for the structural engineer. Is it the buyer? Is it the seller? And so just be upfront with the issues you have with the seller so that you can put kind of the ball in their court for or any issues that may have to do with the foundation. Next, poor maintenance or lack thereof, or basically no proof of actual maintenance that was done, right? So when you're looking at old houses, you want to know how old like the water heater is, the furnace, and the big ticket items in the property. And they should have some sort of maintenance record, especially if they're super old. So like if the homeowner can't prove like the last time like X, Y, or Z was looked at, that's probably a red flag to you that one, it was never looked at, or it was looked at and like the maintenance record says that this needs to be fixed. You always want to know the age of the equipment in the property and the last time that it was maintained. Like, and if someone legit just didn't have anything ever looked at or didn't do any preventative maintenance on it, that's kind of a red flag too, because you don't want that maintenance bill to fall on you. Because it could be, hey, the water heater's good for 10 years. You could be on year 9. They haven't had it inspected, but also nothing's wrong with it either. And so that's something you want to have your home inspector give a very hard look at is big ticket items in the home that do not have any records of any maintenance being done. Thank you for listening to the show. If you want to connect with other listeners and also dive deeper into topics, as well as attend live trainings every Tuesday at 8 p.m., click the link down below and join the First Time Homebuyer School. See you inside. The next thing is proximity to water. So like a cool feature some houses have is like there'll be like a creek maybe like right off your property. Sometimes maybe a little bit further there'll be like a lake or something like that. So that's a cool visual feature. But you got to think like, hey, it's going to rain, and where does rain go? Rain probably goes where there's water at. That's how the water kind of got there, right? And so you want to know like, hey, ask the seller, has it ever flooded, or has this creek or this body of water ever flooded? Not does it usually flood or what sometimes happen, has it ever flooded, right? Because it's all cool until like you get a torrential downpour and now you got water pressed up against your back door and water's rolling into the house, right? And so, and next thing you want to know is like, are you in a flood zone as well? So your homeowner's insurance person will tell you you're in a flood zone, and if you're in a flood zone, your insurance will be a little bit more to prevent from, it's called flood insurance. So you'll have flood insurance if you're in a flood zone. And also you want to look at just like standing bodies of water. Like if it rained like a day or two ago and there's like still like puddles and stuff in the backyard, that's an indication that there's probably a lot of standing water when it rains, which once again means that there could be water that matriculates into your home when there's a large downpour. I learned this from recently when I was going on a home search, was making sure you check out the windows, because cool windows are cool and unique windows are cool until you have to get them replaced. Like if the house has unique windows and they're like old windows, it's going to be very hard, or the harder it is, the more expensive it is to actually replace those windows. And so how it works is you also aren't going to be, if it's a super unique window, you're probably going to have to get them like all replaced at once, because that broker or whoever is not going to be like, yeah, I'm going to sell you one of this super unique window. You may have to get like 5, 6, 7, or 8 windows replaced at the same time, and that may become super expensive. So that's just something you got to weigh the cost of having like cool windows on a property versus what it may cost to repair those windows in the future. All right, next we're going to talk about mold, right? And so depending on what part of the country we're in, there could be, sometimes mold is kind of normal in houses, and sometimes you hear like black mold, which is like bad mold to inhale and all that. You from your eyeballs cannot tell that. Your realtor from their eyeballs cannot tell it. The seller's realtor from their eyeballs cannot tell it. If you see mold, you need a report from that seller on paper that that is not bad mold, it is not active mold. Because sometimes there's mold in house, but there's a difference between like active mold and mold that is progressive. And so the seller needs to verify to you that mold is not bad, or I'll just put it like that, not bad mold. And you also still want to get your own inspection as well. And so the point of the report from the seller is that they've already done the due diligence in the first place to actually prove that the mold is not bad. And so you're just getting a test to verify that. If they haven't got any sort of report at all, you want that seller to pay for that mold report before you even make an offer. And last but not least is water damage. And so water damage is a huge red flag, and I think everyone knows it's a red flag. So if you see it, it means that that is the water damage that the seller could not hide, essentially, right? And so there may be other sorts of water damage. Maybe they painted over it. Maybe they put some new baseboards up or something like that. So if you see water damage, there's probably signs that there's a lot more going on, whether it's from the roof and you have like a bad roof. Roofs are super, super expensive to replace, or it's something to do with, once again, you being in a flood zone. And so, once again, water damage is kind of like a hard stop for lenders. So you want your home inspector to look at that, but like when you're going through the appraisal process, once again, the appraiser will indicate on the appraisal that, hey, there's potentially like a leak in the roof or something like that. Now the buyer has to get another inspection in order to prove that this is not active water damage, or just old water damage that is no longer, or is like null and void at this point. So once again, you always want to get that report from the seller to make sure that the water damage is not active. And once again, the purpose of the report is because it lets the seller do the first level of due diligence. Because if the report says, yes, there's a leak in the roof, now you're like, seller, okay, you need to figure this out before I even make an offer. So hopefully that helped you. Those are 8 red flags when shopping for a home. If I missed something, let me know. Drop them in the comment section. And good luck on your home ownership journey. If you need help with anything, join my first time home buyer community. We'd love to connect with you. We'd love for you to connect with other folks going through the same things you're going through. And as always, buy land. Rumor has it they're not making any more of it. See you next week. Imagine having your loan canceled 2 weeks before closing. Well, that happened to my wife and I on this home back here. Luckily, I had a great realtor who smoothed things out with the seller, found me a better lender, and we closed only a week later. Realtors matter, but how do you know if it's a good realtor or a bad realtor? Well, we'll help you cut through some of the fog with our realtor and lender referral network. So let us know where you're looking, and we'll send you a list of pre-vetted realtors, no cost to you, to help take a little bit of stress out of the biggest financial decision of your life.